Well, everyone, iOS 16 Beta 3 has just officially came out in a beta form, so let's go and take a look at it. Now, I did install this on my iPhone 12 Pro, which is one of the newer iPhones so far, and I've been using this kind of as a benchmark. Now, this specific beta came out to about, as you can see, 1.41 gigabytes. I believe this was coming from Beta 2. So, if you're on iOS, 16 Beta 2, you will be pretty much make sure you have this much amount of storage on your device before actually upgrading. Now you can see within this, it says this beta version of iOS 16 contains bug fixes and improvements, and then it also goes on to say all this other stuff, which is usual. Now this has only been out, I just had it installed for about 20 minutes or so, so it really hasn't been super long amount of time, but I'm going to cover the basics, some cool things that were within this update. I will tell you though, if you're on any iPhone, whether it's like a 12 Pro, 13 Pro, or any of the older ones, I would highly recommend uninstalling this version of software. It's going to be very buggy, it's going to have lots of issues. So that's number one. Number two, there were a few things I took note of for beta 2 that were actually very interesting. So one, as we saw before, the iMessage application will now have the ability from beta 2 to actually separate from dual SIM and regular SIM. So whether you have one SIM or the other SIM, you can separate messages there. They actually also allowed cryptographically verify that the app was purchased on the App Store. I think that may end up alluding to the developer mode that's been showcased within iOS 16, possibly allowing us to maybe install third-party apps. I'm not 100% too sure, but that was one thing I saw. Another thing, many additional Bluetooth and USB game controllers are now supported by Game Controller Framework, and that was something we saw with the Switch Pro controller and the Joy-Con controller as well. So those were pretty much on the previous betas for beta 1 and beta 2. I think all those were on beta 2. Now within beta 3, there wasn't really super anything in technical that Apple mentioned of what this specific version of software was going to be bringing. And when you actually click on that link, at least when I clicked on that link, it didn't really bring me into the beta 3 page. It just brought me over to the beta 2 page. So that was one thing that I saw. As you can see, it still brings us over to beta 2. Now, installing this was very easy. Didn't take too much time. It was very, very fast as always. So far from the 20 minutes I've been messing with it, it seems fairly stable for the most part. But beta 3 brought something that was very, very interesting. Beta 3 actually brought this new thing called a lockdown mode. Now I just saw this mentioned today. I don't think it's been in previous betas. I didn't see it, and Apple just now announced it today, and funny enough, beta 3 came out today too, so I wasn't expecting it. But if we go ahead and actually showcase it to you guys, essentially to get there, you can go there by going down into your privacy and security option, which is right down here. If we go and scroll down, we now have this new little option that says lockdown mode. So essentially, if you want to go ahead and mess with it, or if you want to enable it, all you have to do is go into here. And what this, I think this is probably the biggest feature within beta 3 that's going to be on the future betas. There's probably other improvements and fixes and so many other things with this, but within lockdown mode, which is being talked about a lot, it says lockdown mode is an extreme optional protection that should only be used if you believe you may be personally targeted by a highly sophisticated cyber attack. Most people are never targeted by attacks of this nature. When iPhone is in lockdown mode, it will not function as it typically does. Apps, websites, and features will be strictly limited for security, and some experiences will be completely unavailable. So that seems pretty extreme, and this is what it's supposed to be. I'm assuming if you're like a politician, a huge celebrity, if you're somebody like an A-list celebrity or somebody like that, I think this is what this is supposed to be tuned for. Now, if you click on Learn More, you can basically get into this option, and it'll just tell you and bring you basically into Apple support. So I think that's pretty cool, very interesting. I don't know why it brought you to Apple support. Now let's see what happens when we turn on lockdown mode. So I'm going to go and click here, and I guess it basically tells us lockdown mode. When iPhone is in lockdown mode, apps, and it kind of goes on. So messages, most message attachments are blocked. That's very interesting. Incoming FaceTime calls from people you have not previously called are blocked. Web browsing is what? Web browsing technologies and browsing features are blocked. That doesn't really make too much sense. And device connections, Apple. I mean, there's a ton of things. So let's just go ahead and turn this on and see what happens. So turn on and restart. So let's just go and see what happens. Hopefully my phone doesn't brick, but I guess we'll see what happens when we go ahead and go back into it. And this is, like I mentioned, this is probably going to be the biggest feature within beta 3. There's going to be bug fixes and different things like that. But while this restarts, I will definitely tell you, lockdown mode is something that is probably not going to be used by many people. If you want to turn it on, that's essentially how you do it. But like I mentioned, I probably wouldn't recommend installing it for the average person out there. Now, once we go ahead and boot back into it, like I mentioned, I guess we'll see what the iPhone looks like. So we are back on. Weirdly enough, the brightness just kind of glitched up there, which is expected. Unscrolling it, it seems to be kind of about the same. It said web browsing. Okay, so it does say lockdown enabled. So we do have a little option at the bottom that says something that, lockdown is enabled. If we go into here, let's see if there's a little option. So it seems like you can still use pretty much everything. It doesn't give me another prompt. So we had one automation. I don't know why that came up. It doesn't really tell me anything that, lockdown mode is enabled in any of these things except for within the browser. So that was one thing that was mentioned. So now people who call me, if I haven't called them before, they're not going to come up. So that was very interesting. Let's see if camera is enabled. So it seems like everything is, for the most part, pretty much enabled. Let's try Snapchat. Okay, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe it does, I don't know. But I'm sure as more and more people end up using it, they'll probably end up getting a little bit, more. They'll basically be able to see what was in this update and all this other stuff. If you want to turn it off, so it does tell us exactly what's going on down here. We can turn it off just like this and turn off and restart. But now the question is, should you install iOS 16 Beta 3 on your iPhone? Is it stable enough? I'm still going to tell you, I probably wouldn't recommend installing it. Like I said, I've been installing this version of software on a bunch of different devices, and I've been having a various amount of experiences. I have an iPhone 8 right here. That is currently on iOS 16, and I'm definitely going to tell you it's been a weird process. It's been good. Battery life has been one of the weird issues with a lot of these older phones, but it does kind of scream to me that this is a device software that still needs to be tuned out. Even you just saw right here, the brightness went down and then it went up a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm expecting these betas to get better throughout time, but I'm not expecting this thing to be, at a perfect level anytime soon. Personally, within Beta 3, because of the amount of features and, fixes that Apple is still kind of bringing, especially within the lockdown mode that just came out, I still think there's a lot of improvements Apple has to make. I think lockdown mode and different things and different features like that are awesome. But when we look at Beta 3, I'm expecting, 1.41 gigabytes, that's a pretty big size update for the most part. That's definitely not a small size update. That is a fairly big size update, and I'm really happy about that. But that just screams to me that Apple still has a long ways to go. I will definitely also add that right now we are in July. So we still have a long period to go. In my opinion, I think we're probably going to get the official version probably around September. So probably like this week of September, maybe this week, September 30th, maybe even October. So if you think about it, we still have not only the rest of July, but we have pretty much the rest of August as well, and as well as most of September. So to install it, I'd probably wait until this time frame, and that is pretty much it. That's going to be consistent probably for the next few months, to be honest. But within Beta 3, it's looking to be a fairly decent update. I'm happy they ended up, bringing in all those cool things. There's going to be a lot of features that many people are going to be talking about in the next few weeks as well, because, it just came out. So we're going to see what happens, and we're going to keep a pretty close eye on it. But I think as of right now, Beta 3, it's good. I like Apple, they, added a few things. They still have not updated their release page yet, which is very, very interesting. Usually they do that fairly fast, but again, I'll let you guys know and keep you guys updated. I'm going to go ahead and install Beta 3 on pretty much all my other devices too in the next coming weeks or next coming hours. They're already updating and installing. So I'll keep you guys updated there and kind of let you know what happens, and that pretty much covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.